Kylen Ribeiro, welcome officially to the podcast. We are so happy to have you here today and to dive deep into EMFs and the amazing protection that DefenderShield is offering parents and families. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Anthony. I'm really excited to talk to your audience about this topic.
Me too. And this is something that's like near and dear to my heart, especially as I've gone on my health journey. I think when most of us start getting healthy, we focus on, okay, I got to eat healthier foods, get consistent with exercise, supplements, sleep. And then there's just this whole X factor of being a modern human. We're just bathed in what I like to call an invisible rainbow of electromagnetic fields that are all around us. And I notice personally, I'm one of the people that can feel them. I can feel unwell if I'm around tech for too much, headache, a little anxiety, like a little disturbed in my body. And so I went down the rabbit hole of researching these things. And it led me to you guys. It led me to understanding that there are great companies out here who know the science and are leading this conversation of like, hey, wake up. These things can have harmful effects in our bodies, depending on doses, and there's ways to mitigate. So I guess I would like to start, like, why did you personally get passionate about electromagnetic fields, electromagnetic radiation? Like, what do you sense? What do you see out there in the research? And why are you leading DefenderShield into the future in this topic?
Yeah, well, the co-founder of DefenderShield and I, Ryan DeBon and Daniel DeBon, are the co-founders. But I met Ryan at a yoga teacher training program, and I didn't think about this at all, actually. Sadly, even though I have been in the health and wellness space for basically my entire life, and this was. Let's see, in about 2016. So almost, yeah, about 9 years ago. And I was very lucky to have come across him and for him to start telling me about the company. And, at that time, it was just him and his dad, and they only had one or two products. But once I became aware about EMFs and electromagnetic fields, I thought, and I was actually pregnant at the time with my first child. So I thought, wow, like I really need to be cognizant of all of this stuff, especially now bringing a child into the world and carrying a child. So from there, a couple years went by, and I was in another career, but I really felt like called to do something health related, and I really wanted to be able to help people. And I felt this topic was so under talked about and just so kind of swept under the rug in our society that I wanted to be a part of sort of like educating the public and growing this like very exciting business. So when I joined DefenderShield, I felt like I really could do something that would impact people, especially people like you who are hypersensitive. And we get real stories from customers every day that talk about how our products help them, or they just find out about, maybe they just learned they're hypersensitive and they call us and they're feeling very overwhelmed. And we try to just guide them through like, hey, here are some things you can do. Here are some products you can use to help mitigate your exposure and hopefully help feel better. And we do have definitely people who tell us, I feel better when using your products. And like, what could make you feel better than that in a job you're doing?
Especially heading into the future where, our lives are centered around these supercomputers, these phones that we have with us that enable us to talk with our family and our friends, access information, communicate. It's like the wave of the future are these devices that are communicating wirelessly. So inherently, like, if there are health problems associated with these devices beyond the fact that they're addictive, we need to find ways to make them as healthy as possible, because for most of us, we're not disengaging with them. We're engaging more and more into the future.
Right. And the fact that that you may have heard the term, it's kind of a phrase people say now, the Internet of Things.
Mm-hmm.
So all that means is all of our devices talking to each other through wireless connections. So all that does is just make the environment that we're in that much more heavily concentrated with these signals that are on the electromagnetic spectrum. So the more we can be aware of this and just protect ourselves and our families and reduce exposure, the better off we'll be long term, I believe.
I completely agree too. And I think that's where we're going to head next in just a moment, is understanding when we say EMFs, like what those are from a scientific perspective of the different types of waves and how they might how they do interface with their biology. And before we get there, like what I'm seeing, at least living here in Arizona, is the telecommunications industry is really building like the infrastructure for the future, working with governments. Like it's just how it works. And so right now we have like the fifth generation, like 5G of rollouts of cell towers. And I saw a lot over the last couple of years. They put them up all over the highways now. If you go to shopping markets, you'll see them disguised as things, either poles or trees. But
I love to see them disguised as trees. It's
yeah,
like it's the least natural thing, but they're putting limbs on it to like try and make us think it's a tree.
then you'll
It's actually
appreciate
very
this.
ironic.
In Arizona, we have 5G cactuses. They make them look like
I'm
big
not
saguaro cactuses, which is kind of hilarious. But yeah, the point is like we're putting these relay stations everywhere because needs to be like constant communication. And then we're going to get in this conversation as well as like how you can protect your home, because you can't control like necessarily what's going on outside, but you can control your home. Before we get there, talk to us about EMFs. Like what are they? What are the different frequencies of these things and how do they impact the body?
Okay, so EMFs is just short for electromagnetic field radiation. And there is a full spectrum of frequencies that fall along that range. This is non ionizing radiation. Ionizing is up into much higher frequencies. That's what you get when you get x rays. And as a doctor, I know you understand all of that. But when we talk about EMFs, it's the non ionizing. And for many years, the argument was, oh, it's non-ionizing. It's not going to hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. But that is not what the studies and the science say. So for example, the like cell phones and tablets and Wi-Fi all fall along this spectrum. Like for example, a cell phone operates at about 700 megahertz to 2.7 gigahertz, and 5G is currently at 28 gigahertz. Wi-Fi is 2.4 or 5 gigahertz.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all pretty much concentrated to that spectrum. But when we look to like 6G, that's getting up into like the terahertz range.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something we've never dealt with as humans, really. Mm-hmm. Our bodies have not experienced that in a, long-term environment. So that's sort of what we try to teach is like, cell phones are relatively new. And when I say new, 20, 25 years. And then just as the years go on, the more inundated we are with these signals. So we should be kind of thinking, well, we don't actually know the long-term effects because we haven't even reached the long-term yet. Mm-hmm. But time will tell. But we like to practice, hey, the precautionary principle. If there might be something unsafe or we might want to reduce our exposure, why not do that? It can't hurt, right? It's not going to hurt us to protect ourselves. It could hurt us if we don't. So that's kind of where we like to talk about, helping people understand that this is not something that we have the long-term research on because it hasn't been that long-term yet. But there is lots of research anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll share this too for those in our community. If you do want to dive more into the research, I prepared like a couple of years ago around like a 50-page research document. There are over 10,000 published studies on these things, some done in the US, some done in Russia. We started doing these a lot around World War II, when we started to put out a lot more radio waves for communication, and a lot of the Navy scientists were studying these things. And so we have the data. And I think my take is, so the ionizing aspect is very high energy waves, like X-rays in particular, that have the potential to literally damage DNA and then lead to, cancer effects. When we're talking about these lower energy microwaves, which these EMFs we're talking about from phones fall in the microwave region, these don't ionize, cause like a particle to lose an electron, I guess you could say, and then create damage to the DNA. But they do affect the mitochondria. They can affect the circulation. They can shift the nervous system into a more like anxious, sympathetic state. And there's many mechanisms through which we do this. And it also seems like certain people are more resilient to them and certain people are more sensitive. And that's just interesting for it.
It is very interesting. And so in our country, as you're in the medical field, electromagnetic hypersensitivity is not like a recognized disease here, but it is in Europe and other countries. So they are just more aware of the susceptibility of people. And I think that here it makes it harder for people to figure out what's going on with them because it's not something that the medical community is trained to, in a traditional medical, degrees. it's not something that, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, like did you learn about this in medical school?
No,
I
it's
don't
self
think
study,
that.
but there's no courses on it. No.
Yeah, so I think hopefully that will change. Hopefully that, I know there's movements going on with different practitioners and holistic minded and functional medicine doctors, and hopefully that will spread to as many medical community professionals as possible, so that they can, at least it's a starting point to try to help people that come in that just, like you were describing, like, why do I feel so bad? Like, I don't
Hmm.
know, and it's just one of the mechanisms to look at. It's not that it always is because you're hypersensitive to electronics, but it could be a factor, you
Sure.
know?
And our bodies are electrical systems. Like we use minerals and we create electrical gradients across cells. Like cells are supposed to have a slightly negative, like minus 70 millivolts, like, differential across the membrane layer that helps, signaling happen and nutrients happen. And it just leads you to believe that if our bodies are using electricity and minerals to communicate in different signaling molecules, that bombarding our bodies with non-natural high energy fields, pulsed at high levels, at the wrong times, is stressful. It's like it can be a stress for the body. And also kids, due to having like higher water content relative to their body weight, actually absorb EMFs even more. So we're having the first generations of kids, or maybe if you're listening to your grandkids, growing up on tablets that are getting blasted all the time. Research showing that EMFs affect sperm, especially when you have laptops and stuff on your lap. For some people, there's some associations with cancers, and there are mechanisms through that, through which that can happen. So it's really something. But we also don't. It's like one of those things where all society wants to put their head in the sand with this, because that would mean like halting or slowing down this frontier of progress and generation of new capital, let alone with like the AI stuff right now, right? Like big data centers, let's get everything like high tech. Like that corresponds with increasing in small cell towers and more communication. So this is where we're heading. And so with
Hmm.
that, you guys are based on this precautionary principle. Let's develop products that help mitigate. So what does Defender Shield have? Like, how do you guys approach mitigation? Where do you mitigate on what types of devices? And I want to ask that first. And I also want to get into like the landscape of different mitigating products that are on the market. There's like stickers, there's like phone cases, there's a whole bunch of things. And I think people who are at the sense of like, oh yeah, there's probably something I should do, they don't even know like what to buy or where to start.
Yes. So I'll start by talking about how our products work. We have spent years developing a very specific and customized shielding that is proven in a third party military grade lab to block the full range of frequencies that come from our devices. So that is all the way down. I should have mentioned before, within the spectrum of EMFs, there is extremely low frequency and radio frequency.
Mm-hmm.
So, extremely low frequency is up to 300 hertz, and then RF starts at that and goes up to 300 gigahertz. So, all the devices we're talking about today fall within that spectrum, and we ensure that our shielding blocks all of that. So, that was something that we're constantly evolving as well because of the evolution of the technology.
Mm-hmm.
We were thinking about how to block 5G 2 to 3 years before it was going to be released, and we're doing
Mm-hmm.
the same now for 6G. So that is the the whole concept of our products, is we incorporate the shielding into products that protect like that direct body contact from
Mm-hmm.
your device. I'll grab my cell phone here as an example. So to give you an idea, we place our shielding in the front side of our cell phone cases
Mm-hmm.
so that when you're on the phone, you're not getting that direct emission directly into your brain. If
Mm-hmm.
you have it on your body, you would place this side towards you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the idea of what we put into all of our products. Laptops, tablets, tablet cases, cell phone cases. We even have clothing and scarves, and we have hats, and we have blankets. This product in particular, these are air tube headphones.
Mm-hmm.
People might have heard of these, but essentially there's no shielding in them. But this air tube converts the sound, which occurs here at the speaker, and it travels into to the ear. So one of our biggest concerns nowadays are the like the AirPods
For
and the
sure.
Bluetooth
I wouldn't
headphones,
use them.
because right. So wired air tube is best, wired is second best, and then the worst is the Bluetooth earbuds. And I think the issue, and we'll get to this potentially a little bit later, but it's the time spent using the devices. You know, there are people who I know, they maybe work a remote job and they might be doing calls all day, back to back to back. They might be using those headphones that entire day long,
Right.
plus going to the gym, plus around the house. So that is a long term exposure, day after day after day. That's what I would kind of be like. We used to talk about cell phones being, you know, the worst, and that is up there. But are we using our cell phone 10 hours a day plus? No, not usually.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of us might be, but the headphones, that's just another newer thing we have to
Yeah.
worry about. So anyway, the way that our shielding works is it conducts. So we use a mix of metals and other materials, like metal fibers, to create a barrier that the EMFs cannot pass through. Then the material absorbs, allowing the EMFs to and then dissipate. So conduct, absorb, and dissipate. And dissipate is the EMFs kind of spread. It's our products act as a floating ground. So it just spreads the EMFs out and then they don't reach your body from the other side of the shield. So it's very easy to understand how they work, in my opinion, because if you were to buy one of our products and cut it open, you would see our shielding. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's a physical barrier. A lot of these newer products, it's a little bit. So there are stickers, there are pendants, there are devices that claim to mitigate the radiation. And while some may reduce the radiation, if it doesn't do it in a controlled test, it's not doing what it claims.
Mm-hmm.
We believe that real protection is physical protection, and it works by conducting, absorbing, and dissipating the EMFs.
Mm-hmm.
The space has, you know, grown a lot, and a lot of these new technologies are out there, and a lot of people come to us because they're confused and they're like, how does this work, and how does the sticker work, and how does the ionizer work? Well, we can't really explain it, so we just say, well, here's how our stuff works, and you know, if you can understand how their stuff works, great. Like maybe you should trust it, but for now, we just say, hey, you know, we believe that the best protection is a physical barrier, which we incorporate into our products.
I want to state that again in my way. And by the way, on my iPhone 16, I have a Defender Shield case on it. That is
Love
great.
to hear that.
It's yours is like a literal shield. Like imagine like a shield of metal that prevents the EMFs from reaching your body from the front side of the case. Then these other stickers and pendants, like I'll throw out some buzzwords because I don't actually understand their physics myself, but like they'll say that they create like a harmonized field of some sort. They change the wave pattern that's being emitted in some way. Maybe some of these things have an absorptive capacity themselves, but they're typically like smaller things that are not really shielding in the way that Defender Shield is. And the shielding makes sense to me, but I also do know and believe that there are other mechanisms and ways to make EMFs less harmful. But I think with your phone, at least on the front side of the case, especially in the non-use times, like, dang, have a shield on it. That makes a lot of sense to me.
I think that there could be positive effects from these other technologies, but it will not block it completely. And my fear is that people think that it's almost creating a force field around them by
Mm-hmm.
putting a sticker on the
Yeah.
phone. Like it's like I can walk anywhere and I'm just like in a bubble that's not
Mm-hmm.
going to get, you know,
Yeah.
inundated by these EMFs. And that's just not
Yeah.
at
It's not true.
all the correct way to think about it. So yeah, I mean, if you want to layer on multiple technologies, you know, whatever, as long as you're making sure to use things that are proven, and you can, like, my main thing is, can you understand it?
Mm-hmm.
Can you understand how it works? And if you can, great. I've talked to a lot of really smart people, and a lot of them, most, not one actually has been able to explain fully to me how these sorts of other technologies work. But
Yeah.
you know, there could be merit to them. I'm not, you know, saying throw it away. I'm just saying, you know, if you really want to be sure, then use a shield.
Mm-hmm. And so you put a Defender Shield or something like that on your phone. One thing, a couple other like tips and stuff that's been really meaningful in my journey of getting healthier in the EMF domain is like proximity effects are huge. like if you are home or you're in an office, and even with a phone with a Defender Shield on it or something, even if it's like 3 or 4 or 5 feet away from you, the difference in the RF exposure to your body versus being a foot away is massive. So like take advantage of that. Do you agree with that?
100%. We preach time, distance, and shielding as like the three main concepts to think about when you think about reducing your exposure. So we'll start with distance since that's what you brought up. Just placing your phone 4 feet away from you,
Yeah.
it eliminates
90%.
98%.
Yeah,
Yeah, like from reaching your body.
for
So
sure.
any inch, it really just, the further away, the better. And again, 4 feet, like that's, that's over there across the room or on a table. It's not like it's got to be completely out of your house.
Totally.
And then time spent, that is something that sometimes is out of our control these days and age, with the way that we have to work. I mean, right now we're on a virtual podcast. Some people, I feel their jobs require them to be on virtual calls, all day, every day. And that you can only control so much. But
Right.
you know, control what you can control. When you're not having to do work on the computer or on the laptop, like turn off the screens, take a break. Even if you are on the laptop, keep it on a table. Don't have it on your lap unless you have a shield. So that leads me to the third thing, which is shielding. When you can't create distance or time away, then use a shield. Whatever your device is, we have a solution. There is a solution to be used to create a shield between your body getting that direct body contact. And I know you as a father, and I know a lot of your listeners are parents. Most of them probably, since it's the
Yeah.
Fit Father and Fit Mother podcast.
Parents or grandparents, yes.
Parents and grandparents. When you spend any time with children, we need to be teaching them from day one how to use tech safely. We all see it. Kids out there in the wild, going to the restaurant with their iPad, on the phone, on their parents' phone. Like, I'm not saying that, there's many extremes. Some parents are completely anti-screen. Some people are like, oh, let the screen do the babysitting. There's a lot of things in between. But what I try to, as a parent, it's so important for us to teach the next generation that literally was born into this stuff, that we don't put the iPad on our lap. We keep it over here if you're going to watch it. If you are traveling, get a DefenderShield case so that if it's on their lap in the airplane or wherever they are, that they're not, their lap is not getting those signals directly into the most sensitive parts of their body, which could change their DNA. We've talked about sperm just a little bit, but there is direct effects on sperm quality, motility, sperm count, even after 3 hours of an adult human using a laptop. So imagine what that's doing to children.
Totally.
Again, you mentioned they're more vulnerable and susceptible to these things. And so while these studies haven't been done on children, what we can deduct is like what we found in adult males, like that's only going to be more problematic for kids.
Totally. Something I do with my daughter is sometimes she uses my iPad and sometimes she uses her little like kids tablet that she has shows. I download everything to those. Like if it's on Prime Video, I just download. If it's on my iPad, it's worth it to me to have a YouTube premium subscription so I can download things. So I download I turn on the Wi-Fi, download all the shows that she might want to have, and then the Wi-Fi is off. So when she's watching it, it's always no Wi-Fi. And that works for her at her age, right? And like that's like 90% reduction. And it's hard for me having, a 3.5-year-old to explain that this is harmful for her due to invisible electromagnetic waves. I mean, I don't even go there at this point. but at least reducing her exposure by the download tip is very helpful.
Very, very helpful. Yep. Use it in airplane mode as much as possible because then you're only dealing with the ELF from the battery, really.
Yeah.
And you're not having any of the Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth, or some laptops have the cell signal.
Totally.
That is completely turned off. So I love that tip. Me and my COO, Michelle Zofria, actually wrote a children's book called Henry's Tech Free Trip so that we could explain this to kids in an easy to understand way.
Cool.
So when your daughter's ready, or I mean, we say start at any age. It's a like fun little story about
Yeah.
the character is based on my older son, but um it's just a short little book about an adventure a family goes on, and the kid who wants to sneak his tablet everywhere he goes, and eventually the parents explain, like, here's why. We tried to make it as easy to understand for kids.
Hmm.
Even adult humans find it hard to understand concepts that they can't see,
Hmm.
taste, feel, hear. You could feel it. You're an example of someone that can feel it,
Hmm.
but many people, um, they can't. They have a hard time believing in something they can't see, and kids are even more so. Like, oh,
Hmm.
you're trying to explain them, hey, there's stuff coming out of your tablet. It's like, what stuff? Like, I don't see anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so we talk about it like germs, that it's like you can't see germs, but they can make you sick.
Hmm.
So that was sort of like,
That's
actually,
a good connection. Yeah.
my son came up with it
Nice.
because he was thinking on the kids level.
Yeah.
So that helped us to put something in that like kids could relate to and sort of understand. Even though you can't see it, it can still affect you.
Hmm. Nice. Very, very useful for the communication and that. Another tip that comes to mind for me is like just to ask yourself the question, like, where am I getting the most exposure? So you and I both work virtually in our companies. I'm on a laptop constantly. So, but I close my laptop, I connect it to a monitor. So it's a little further away. And when I can, I run Ethernet in my house. So I have a little Ethernet cable, which is great because then I don't actually have to have Wi-Fi on my laptop. Now, if I'm out traveling, hotel, conference, obviously on using Wi-Fi, but it's on a desk. It's not on my lap. And these kinds of things are helpful. But if you can, I think if you can just optimize the couple environments where you spend the majority of your time, your bedroom for sure, and maybe where you work, and limit some exposure there, man, you've done, that's the 80-20 of this thing. Like, get a shield of some case on your cell phone if you don't have one, optimize your office workspace and optimize your bedroom, which just means keep it away from you a little bit. Like, man, you're in, that's like some practical stuff.
Absolutely. We like to say, wherever you spend the majority of the time in your home, like, we
Yeah.
know number one is we sleep in our bedrooms for we
Yep.
hope, parents maybe a little bit less, we hope 8 hours a night plus. um, but making that your sanctuary, and
Hmm.
making sure that your Wi-Fi router, for example, if you aren't lucky enough to have hardwired or Ethernet
Hmm.
cables throughout your home, just make sure the router is not somewhere that you or your family spending their time.
Totally.
Have it in the back corner of your house,
Yes.
and or just away. Don't have it in any bedroom. Don't have it near the living room or wherever your family kind of
Hmm.
joins together. Um, and you're exactly right. Your workspace. So those that do work from home, you know, don't have your router in your office that you're
Hmm.
working from. Keep it away. And in your children's rooms, baby monitors, they're a little bit of a sneaky uh, source. And we don't want that near our children. So there are baby monitors that aren't wireless, and they're not connected to Wi Fi. So
Hmm.
we highly suggest, although the technology, you might not get a live feed from your phone, at least you're not putting that beside your growing baby's, sleeping place
Hmm.
as they're growing up every single night. I would say that would be more worrisome than not having like a live feed to your cell phone.
I would agree for sure. Yeah, especially so. And I imagine it's gonna be crazy because if they're not already out already, I guarantee there's gonna be products that literally have Bluetooth enabled clothing for little kids that's sending the real biometric feedback to the mom's or dad's phone. It's like, this is your newborn baby's heart rate, their HRV, and it's on some kind of cap or a band on them. And it's just like, dang, like
You're
that
so
data
right.
seems cool, but that's a Trojan horse if I've ever seen one.
Yes, we have survived as humans for many, many thousands of years without this technology. So, although it makes our lives easier in some ways, we have to just realize, like, we can do we can do everything without technology for the most part, and only having it when necessary. We're not anti-technology as a company. We know that that's the world that we live in.
Yeah.
We just say, hey, be aware. Do you need the refrigerator that talks to the washing machine, that talks to your phone, that tells you what you need to buy from the store? Like, no, you don't need that. And that's just creating more signals in your home. So,
Hmm.
you know, I I actually had to buy a new like washing machine a few years ago, and I couldn't believe like every that it comes standard that their washing machine has a Wi-Fi. Like you don't have to turn it on, but I'm like, I want one without that. Like I don't want that. And it's like, oh, well, we don't have any that don't have that. I'm just like, okay, well, I won't turn it on, but why is this?
It's the standard.
It's
It's
also
the
more things
default.
to break.
Yeah.
I'm sure we all know our cars like are so advanced and just electronics. Even if you don't have like an electric car, but the more technology there is, the more expensive it is to fix, and the more things there are that could break. So, um, but yes, so keeping the majority of where you spend your time at home and your kids spend their time at home with as little sources of exposure as possible is the best way to go.
Nice. So where do you have Defender Shield products on? You have obviously you showed your phone. You have your phone. What else do you put your products on, and what other applications around the household might you put a shield?
Yeah. So I use my cell phone. That's the thing I use the most probably out of any technology. So I've got my cell phone case on. I use these air tubes. I do not use Bluetooth. I don't allow my kids to use Bluetooth headphones either. I don't even think kids they fit in their ears, but I'm sure as soon as they're teenagers, there's going to be asking, and I'm just going to say no, sorry, you're going to be not cool, and you're not going to have them radiating through your brain. Um, but so blanket, that is a hugely popular and universal product because you can use it under your laptop while you're working. You can use it while you're sleeping to make
Mm-hmm.
sure any ambient EMFs in your environment, your body's being protected. Uh, we haven't talked about blue light, but we
Mm-hmm.
also blue light is on the electromagnetic spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
and the not only when we talk about devices affecting us from the EMFs being emitted from all the connections, but the light coming from the screens
Mm-hmm.
has an effect on our circadian rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
And we have blue light glasses that block the light. And especially after the sun goes down, it's very important to turn the screens off, or if you need to be on one, to be using glasses so that your
Mm-hmm.
body's not, so that that screen's not telling your melatonin production to ramp back up because we're not going to sleep yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, at night I use blue light glasses. Um, let's see, for my kids, when they do use a tablet, they definitely have the Defender Shield case on it, and that's pretty much. I don't use my laptop on my lap personally,
Mm-hmm.
so the Defender Pad is actually our flagship product. It's a great product that actually is very universal. You can put any device on it, and it's a pad that just blocks the full spectrum. I have it around in case I were to need to use my laptop on my lap, but um, the great thing about over the years we have developed so many more products that really we have something for everyone's lifestyle. um, we have people that do feel the effects. We have gloves, we have scarves, we have hats, and a lot of people need those things to be able to do their jobs if they have to use laptops and things because they don't feel great and their hands might tingle and they
Yep.
might get headaches like yourself. So uh, really there's something for everyone. And our customer service is really great about helping people figure out what they do need for their lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And the tech that they use a lot.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And it's also so funny that it's your products are going to have to continue to evolve as like the next generation comes out. It's like a game of cat and mouse. It's like goes higher and higher as the 6G and 7G and whatever the future holds.
Yeah, we try not to think, we think ahead, but we just maybe these things will slow down. There's a lot of communities that are really fighting back on the 5G, and they're suing the government and they're suing the telecom, and I know they're just little fish, but um, it is important to you know remind the government that our health should be number one and not profits. And that is, you're talking to the biggest, entity that there is in our country. But I think, people have saved their communities from 5G for now. We
Hmm.
don't know what the future holds, but like the small cell towers are popping up more and more and more, because eventually that 4G will, it's really the new 5G. 5G is millimeter
Yeah.
frequencies, and currently what is called 5G is actually not technically that. It's higher 4G ranges, but it's almost like a marketing term. It's
Hmm.
called 5G, but it's really still 4G.
Hmm.
So yes, we try to always look ahead and what do we need to be solving in the future, for people to still protect them, and chasing these newer technologies.
And in a little bit, kind of debating on a couple things, politics and science there. Like, as we move to the progressive Gs, like 5G, when you said these are millimeter wave technology, the frequency is getting higher because the wavelength is getting smaller, right? Which actually is a higher energy state. So this is why it can be more disruptive to our bodies. But those are the kind of waves that are like easily disrupted by natural materials, by trees, by houses, by buildings. They don't penetrate well. So you need to have a lot of towers everywhere so that there's good communication versus like a radio wave. You see one big radio tower in a 50-mile radius of a city. Those really loopy waves can penetrate and travel far distances, but the millimeter waves, that's why we need these things everywhere for small, very local, very tight communication. And then the other thing is like the politics of this, like 1996 Telecommunications Act that basically made it so that the regulation of deploying these types of devices, like the telecom kind of towers and stuff for Wi-Fi, et cetera, could only be handled like federally, not locally. Like it was a federal issue. It wasn't like for a local government to be able to say, hey, we want this, we don't want this. And yeah, there's just a lot of politics, a ton of lobbying. I mean, imagine like the money that the telecom industry has. It's massive. And I think there was like
Yeah.
some of the stats, it was like even in 1996, more was spent lobbying telecom than even the entire aggregate budget of like tobacco, which is wild if you think about it. That was like how many years ago now? Like over 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So 30 years ago.
Hmm.
So interesting for sure.
Yes, you're exactly right. Those millimeter waves, they travel shorter distances, so they have to be closer to the source to work, and that is exactly why they have to be, just there's so many more of them, and that that is when we transition to those frequencies, which will be years. I mean, I still don't have them in my neighborhood, and
Hmm.
I hope never to, but there, this is covering our entire country with these small cell sites in order to
Hmm.
fully transition to 5G. So I don't know how feasible that really is.
Yeah.
But we know that they are being implemented in many places, and you say that you see them, and I see them too, around. And it's again, we can only control our home environments. And um, actually, you mentioned that this millimeter waves do get interrupted by materials, and that is true. So materials like concrete and brick naturally
Hmm.
do block some of these EMFs. And your home environment, I know not everyone can choose their home environment, and they can't choose a house that has these concrete or brick materials. But like, for example, a metal roof that could actually cause the EMS to reflect within the home.
Hmm.
So the building materials are a factor. I'm going to mention smart meters too, because we
Hmm.
haven't talked about those yet. Um, Many people may not know that you can, in many jurisdictions, opt out of a smart meter, and that is what we recommend, even though it does usually come with a slight cost, monthly, to not have the smart meter on your home. But that is something that is emitting, and it could be on the other side of your bedroom wall. And in my case, it was. So
Hmm.
I definitely opted out of that smart meter. If you can't opt out, we make wall materials. So we have wallpaper that you can place on the other side of that smart meter, so that you're, not getting that from the outer walls of your house into the house. And that we do sell materials that allow you to customize any sort of room or sanctuary that you need to, without having to buy a pre-made product. You could sort of design it yourself.
Cool. Lots of options if you're looking to do a home improvement project and improve the EMF quality of your home. But think about this. If like a healthy home in 2025, 2026, as we know it, has proper EMF protection, has clean water, like some kind of water filter, at the very least, like an RO somewhere in the house or an over counter that you're drinking water, but ideally more whole house and maybe even shower. And it's got good air too, right? You got some kind of air filtration, or you're cleaning your carpets if you have carpets regularly. And then, we're modern humans. This is the kind of the steps we must take because we don't live out with the benefits of, the benefits and the costs of being closer to nature. There's costs and benefits, but also this was interesting, like on the grounding, earthing / time in nature thing. There's a lot of research from Japan on forest bathing, where if you spend like one day out in nature, like deep in nature, like forest, walking, maybe even sleeping outside in some kind of camping scenario, you get lower cortisol and improved immune function, as evidenced by like white blood cell counts and stuff like this, for like a whole week afterwards. So it's like a little dose of nature can, I think, go a long way in helping us regulate our nervous systems. That would be like the antithesis of the blasted by non-native, energetic signatures, to be in a very low EMF environment. And if you buy an EMF meter, an RF meter, and you check your home, and then you go out to your favorite nature trail, wherever that is, and you turn it on, if you don't have your phone on you, you'll probably see basically nothing, like no register. And it can be very, because these things are invisible, a good habit to both get in nature and two, to get a meter so you can start like measuring things and seeing. Have you done either of those things?
So we, I will touch on meters a little bit. There are limitations to consumer meters.
For sure.
And many people aren't trained building biologists who can, understand all of the factors that might affect a meter. So some of these meters only detect certain types of EMFs, which can cause misleading readings. Some aren't able to read the high millimeter frequency EMFs. The environment is another factor. So the walls and furniture could actually be bouncing signals around, nearby electronics, the technique that you're using to measure. So the orientation, distance, and again, reflections. So you can get an idea. I would say if you're just at home, using a meter, to if you're really concerned, maybe have a building biologist come out, because you might be not worrying about something you should be, or you might be worrying about something too much that you don't need to worry about. So it is a little bit of a gray area, because we think that it does require a level of training to understand like the environment that you're testing in. Like when we test our shielding in the lab, it's like very, obviously the environment is, there's only one signal and one receiver. So there's no outside forces or interference. But in a home, you can't really create that type of environment. But all that being said, we have YouTube videos of someone taking a cell phone, using a meter, closing it, and then seeing how the frequencies are reduced after putting our shield in front of it. So it gives you a general sense for like, okay, yes, like this is greatly reducing the EMFs. But if you are very concerned about like the way your house is constructed or certain sources within a home, it is a great idea to get a building biologist to come out.
Cool. All right. So what's next for DefenderShield? What's next for, looking at the year ahead, and also like kind of closing message for people as well, that they can, take from this, and a one big change and recommendation you like people to make?
Well, I would say the biggest change you can make is just look at what is the device or the source that's affecting me and my family the most, whether it's a cell phone, whether it's your router, and move it away. Again, I'm just going to reiterate, move it away from where your family spends a lot of their time, and move it out of the bedrooms. You don't have to buy any of our products. You can do things to reduce your exposure without having a shield at all. It's just creating distance and spending less time. Um, I want to reiterate that we need to teach our kids about this stuff, and we need to teach them we need to be the examples. If we ask our kids, don't just automatically wake up and go on your tablet, we should be the example and not automatically wake up and check our cell phone. So we have to be the example and not just say how we want them to live. But all that being said, technology is going to be a part of their lives. No question about that. So let's teach them about time, distance, and shielding so that they can learn from a very young age, and maybe hopefully teach their friends whose parents aren't aware of this and who aren't telling them this. Well, what's next for Defender Shield? We are really excited just to continue to see the industry growing. And even though all the technologies aren't, as we spoke about earlier, maybe necessarily the way that we engineer our products, it still brings awareness to the space. And it still is a growing industry that more and more people are becoming aware of. And we've always been educational from when we started the website to today. We always want to share the latest research. We want to talk about articles that are questions customers are asking us. We want to provide answers and solutions for people. So we're going to continue to do that, and just anywhere that we can. We've got a conference coming up that is specifically geared toward pregnant women, which we're very excited about because that is where this all begins. A baby growing in utero, that is where life begins. So we want to make sure that we spread awareness to the pregnant women that, hey, you are able to control the environment of your unborn child, and then all the way, with them growing up. So we're just really excited to see more and more in the health and wellness space bring attention to this. And, it drives people to us and our products. And then realizing, wow, Defender Shield's been around for like 14 years. This has been a thing for a long time. It's just, we were kind of like really early to this thing. And now it just feels really good to see it grow and to be able to be a part of that. And just, we want to help people by educating and informing them.
You've certainly done that today. So thank you so much, Kylen. And if people want to go to the website, is it DefenderShield.com?
DefenderShield.com. We're on all your normal social media channels, and we're on Amazon too.
And if you do go to DefenderShield.com and you want to get one of the products, like I thought you called it the blanket. It seems like that's a very functional idea, or maybe even a phone case like the one that I have. You can also use promo code FITFAMILY15. You will get 15% off for being a part of our community, which is awesome and very generous. Thank you for extending that to our community and for coming on today and sharing what you have, Kylen. It's been really helpful.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anthony. And I hope some of your listeners learned something, and I look forward to hearing the episode come out.
Thanks.